I'm your host Faisal Raza and you are watching Foresight. Viewers, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor has given real boost to Pakistan's infrastructure development, energy generation, created employment opportunities, enhancing exports. In reality, it had set the pace for Pakistan's economic development. After the successful completion or undergoing projects of the Cpec Phase 1, now both Pakistan and China are determined to start the second phase despite of all challenges. Pakistan is not only working tirelessly to strengthen security and stability through Azm-e-Istehkam strategy, but also the Special Investment Facilitation Council (SIFC) working hard to bring valuable foreign investments, particularly in Cpec related projects. We will try to examine China's interests in relocation of its industries to Pakistan, starting joint ventures with Pakistani entities in agriculture, textile, science and technology, electric vehicles, information technology, expected outcomes of the Gwadar master plan, and how special economic zones will become a reality. We also analyze the negative impacts of the Indo-US nexus and China-US geopolitical competition on Pakistan's growth trajectory. So to navigate the complexities of the Cpec Phase 2 and explore how the possibilities for Pakistan's economic growth and development will go on. To discuss this very important topic, we have in our studios Dr. HASSAN DAUD Bhatt. He is the former Chief Executive Officer of the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa Board of Investment and investment expert. Most welcome to you, sir. Thank you very much, Doctor. We have in our studios Asadullah Khan. He is the Research Fellow at Institute of Strategic Studies, Islamabad. Most welcome to you, Asad. Thank you very much for your presence here. And online joining us, Mr. Shan SHIWEI. He is the Senior Journalist, Reporter at CGTN China and expert on BRI Corporation. Most welcome to you, Shan. Thank you very much for your presence online. And my first question to you, that as the Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs said, that China-Pakistan Economic Corridor is not merely a bilateral project, but actually it's inclusive and shared project to accept the partnerships at regional and extra-regional players to achieve the goal of common development. To what extent it has attracted regional and international players, because it is very important for the success of this flagship project. Shan.
Yes. As we know, the Cpec is far beyond a bilateral project. Actually, as Chinese President Xi Jinping said during his meeting with Pakistan Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif this June in Beijing, China is ready and willing to promote the high-quality development of Cpec, and we know China and Pakistan have agreed to open up Cpec to other countries. And we know Saudi Arabia is now the first country to collaborate on Cpec as a third party and expected to bring massive direct investment to the project. For example, the oil refinery project in the port of Gwadar that will further secure the energy supply, which is essential for the operation of this port and the economic zone nearby.
So, Shen, although Pakistan is fighting the menace of terrorism at the forefront, our civilians, armed forces, paramilitary troops, police and intelligence agencies are sacrificing their lives daily. Government and military had taken stringent security measures to safeguard Chinese citizens in Pakistan, especially after Bisham unfortunate attack. But what's the thought prevailing right now in Beijing? How do you analyze that? What the real thought prevailing there in Beijing?
Yes, I have been following those kind of attacks and all the security measures, as you can see from my post in Twitter. And actually, for Chinese, Pakistanis, and other citizens who are working on the Cpec project, every life matters. And in China, of course, we appreciate Pakistan's efforts to create a safe, stable, and predictable business environment and earnestly guarantee the safety of the Chinese personnel, projects, and institutions in the Cpec. And that's why you can see China and Pakistan will further deepen security cooperation on counterterrorism and also call on international community to build a kind of united front against the terrorism and also combat all forms of terrorism with zero tolerance attitude, and then eradicate the breeding ground for terrorism by addressing both the symptoms and the root causes by developing the economy.
Definitely, you are absolutely right on that front, particularly your point well taken. Dr. Hassan Sahab, how do you see the vital role of Special Investment Facilitation Council and overall facilitation, not only the Chinese, but the other investors as well, regarding integrated institutional framework, independent and effective legal system, the rule of law, political stability, local road and transport networks, the sector-specific human capital, because it's vital to get the full benefits of the Cpec phase 2.
Yeah, the single answer to all your questions is they are extremely important and vital. And as the Prime Minister has said, I think in several of his address to the cabinet, that a whole of government approach is essential, is imperative in order to attract investment to Pakistan. And we have to create that pull factor so that investment can come, so that the inclusive development that you've just spoken about happens. But I think more importantly, we also need to understand that the investors who are actually in the post-COVID environment looking for areas where they can invest and create that microeconomic stability, and of course a name for them, and also this new concept of near shoring and friendly shoring, moving out perhaps from bigger countries and looking at smaller destinations where human resource and natural resources are available. I think they will not wait for Pakistan to build on the infrastructure, the road, the enabling environment, and also SIFC to happen. This should have happened yesterday, I believe. So now it's extremely important that all vital elements of the government which are working for attracting of investment, which are working on Cpec, should actually gear up for more investment to come from China in areas which are vital for them, like the agriculture, mines and minerals, tourism, and also manufacturing, which we are important for us. And for all this happen, I've always been promoting the concept of incremental growth, that you should not work on changing the entire scope of Pakistan industrial landscape. You should work on small special economic zones. You have these special economic zones available. Maybe start with one special economic zone, one integrated tourism zone, one export processing zone. Make them great case studies for other provinces too. And I think the federal government has to actually step up the speed of work that is required, work on the integration of all the elements of the government, and perhaps a top down approach is required. Without that, I think we will still be talking about investment attraction. Our economic challenges require us to have more investment, more green development, more responsible tourism and investment in tourism. So I think these aspects are important, and they are very vital for us to actually work on the headwinds that are in front of us.
Definitely, you are absolutely right. Asad, how much the full implementation of the National Action Plan and ASAD strategy is necessary to bring complete security, stability and peace in the country, not only for the fast-track progress of the Cpec phase 2, but also to excel countries' development in the right direction?
Faisal Sahab, being a terrorism-hit nation, we have a very long history of fighting this menace of terrorism.
Yes.
Starting more than a decade ago, around two decades ago even. If I take you in the past, in 2010, I remember was the year in which we have the highest number of attacks in the country. That was around 2,200 attacks in a single year. And this was a time that we were coping up with this challenge of terrorism all across Pakistan. Later on, we started this Operation Azb, and then Operation Raddul Fasad, and now we are looking towards this Operation Azme Istekam. These operations have played very important role in eliminating this terrorism, in the handling of this terrorism issue all across the country. So I believe this operation is very much necessary at this time, because the tactics of terrorism are changing. Our enemy is now more trained than in the past, because they are all fighting us, our forces, and now they are changing their tactics. They're using more modern techniques, and with this US withdrawal from Afghanistan, they are now even more equipped they have sophisticated weapons which are creating hurdles for our forces, and they are now fighting in more vibrant fashion than before. So these operations are very necessary. Our forces are trying very hard to overcome these challenges of terrorism, and we I believe as a region also need to look into this issue, because all the other regional countries are also facing the same kind of issue. It's not the only problem of Pakistan now. It is the problem of all the regional countries in the region.
Definitely, you are absolutely right. SHEN, Beijing and Islamabad both are actually working on relocation of the Chinese high-tech industry in Pakistan. So what's the progress on that? We have just heard about the carbon-free, eco-friendly electric motorcycles to be manufactured here in Pakistan, and also the electric vehicle plants to be set up here in Pakistan. So International Energy Agency says the global demand for the new energy vehicles by 2030 will reach to 45 million. So how do you see this aspect? Because Pakistan and China both can excel in this area. Pakistan can get expertise from China to set up plants here in Pakistan with joint ventures. So both countries can cope up with this need, which is globally now.
Yes, of course. As you said, eco-friendly electric motorcycles are definitely good for boosting Pakistan's manufacturing sector. It also needs a lot of investment in other sectors. For example, like revising the traffic regulation for those kind of electric motorcycles and riders, and also to invest more in the supply chain of all these components, and also for the charger, and most importantly, a stable energy supply. I think that is very important. So that's why you can see multiple Cpec projects have eased the Pakistan to overcome its energy crisis. For example, recently the Chinese built SK hydropower plants is connected to Pakistan's state grids, and once full operation, it will provide reliable and clean energy to over 1 million families every year. So that will boost the manufacturing industry of these eco-friendly electric motorcycles. And I have seen some reports the progress is still doing, and I hope that the first electric motorcycles will roll off the manufacturing line very soon.
So what about the electric vehicles?
Yes, about that vehicles, I think the first one is to have more investment in this kind of supply chains, like all these kind of components. You see now the many Chinese leading EV manufacturing, they are selecting their overseas manufacturing bases, and of course Southeast Asia is one of the top priority, and I think China and Pakistan could to have more this kind of industrial zone, mainly focus on the EV production and also for their supply chains. So then they can have like a assembly line and to have a more reliable and affordable vehicles for the people in Pakistan.
Definitely, you are absolutely right. Shen, will China be agreed for the debt reprofiling, as it's really vital for Pakistan? If that happens, Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif is very optimistic that the government will be able to bring down not only the inflation but also the electricity prices, and it will give extraordinary boost to the industry, especially the Cpec Phase 2 projects, because of cheap energy cost and the low cost of doing business. So it will help Pakistan to excel in these projects particularly. So what do you think actually?
Yes, actually, I have been studying the financial reports from Pakistan side and also Chinese loans for the Cpec for quite a long time, and we know the Chinese loans for Cpec are not the main reason for the burden of for Pakistan's financial system. So that is clear. We have a lot of data, and on Pakistan's financial burden, actually China is open to discuss. And so far, I haven't seen any specific progress so far. Maybe they are still in the negotiation. And we know China is willing to offer help to ease Pakistan's financial burden as we have done before. And we know the
I think so. There would be some audio issue. But what about Asad? What do you think about the Sino-Pak joint ventures in textile and agriculture? Its modernization and Chinese technology transfer to Pakistan, as Pakistan's textile industry actually contribute 45% to Pakistan's exports, while hardcore agri exports are around 23%. Recently, agri export rose to at least $3 billion, and planned rise during current fiscal year, which is estimated, that is at least $7 billion. So how do you see that, whether these joint ventures and the technology transfer, especially the Chinese expertise in the textile and agriculture sector, how much it will give boost to these sectors and economy?
Let me contextualize it in the framework of what Cpec 2.0 is offering us. If you see the 5 E's framework, number 1 is export.
Yes.
Export. So we plan to increase export, not only in textile, but all the other. But I'll talk about the textile and fashion industry. The second is, if you look towards the new corridors, the concept of new corridors, the corridor of job creation, the corridor of innovation, and the corridor of regional development. These all are with some aim, and they have some sub-clauses in it. And obviously the textile and fashion industry lies in it. Now, between Pakistan and China, the free trade agreement implemented back in 2020 is the backbone that is boosting, or that is giving a cushion to the textile industry. Let me quote some figures here for you, that our export to China in terms of textile and fashion industry rise with the 23% in 2023, and they reached to $5.8 billion. So this is a good amount. I think this is a healthy trade between, considering the volume of trade between China and Pakistan. So the basic factors that are complementing this is the reduced tariffs and investment and infrastructure in Pakistan, and both in Pakistan and China, and obviously we add a Cpec as an advantage to it.
Obviously.
This is also aiming towards kind of changing atmosphere in Asia. The reshaping the Asia's trade environment. We want to reduce our dependency on West, so we want to trade more with Chinese.
Definitely it is required, because
yes.
Rather than be a dependent country, you have to be an independent country on economic front. That is going to be the real leverage, whatever would be for economy. No doubt about that. Hassan sir, what about China-Pakistan science and technology cooperation, this particularly in Cpec Phase 2 projects? Whether it's regarding high-tech and quality science education, agriculture, aquaculture, tech parks, development, space research, marine resources, mineral resources and all that. How much investment is going to be in this particular sector, as Pakistan requires a strong science base to excel, and particularly technology as well?
You see, we need to understand as a nation, as a blessed nation with great geography, is that trade and technology, these two T's, I think, create a lot of opportunities. They work on poverty alleviation, they help in raising the national structure also, but also they create certain conflicts and issues also, which have to be addressed as they come along. I think in terms of technology, we understand, and we are also very fortunate that China is now leading the overall science and technology aspect,
Obviously.
the number of patents coming from China are far more than any other country. I think US is also developing certain aspect, but I think in the precision area, China is now leading. In space technologies, I think China is. And they have not just done this overnight, they have followed a path. They started from labor intensive industry, then capital, and then knowledge intensive, and then of course now entering the space domain. And with this path, I think they have provided certain lessons for us to learn. And the most pertinent lesson is that, as I said earlier, we need to synergize as a nation. So now
Definitely.
the role of HEC, the role of the government, science and technology, the role of IT parks, the special technology zone authorities, and also the relevant
And the skill
authorities.
development.
And then all of this will lead to skill development. Say for instance, we talk of KP. How many big urban centers can produce the kind of human resource we need? I think this is limited. Our
Definitely.
TEFTA, our NAFTAC, although we make certain slogans and also make tall claims, I think the quality of human resource, and the report that was submitted in recent cabinet committee about our human resource not being employed as much as we would like in the Middle East.
Definitely.
I think that reflects of the quality of our human resource. And I can tell you, sir, that this can be achieved in 5 months. One period of political stability, harmony within the nation, and then certain objectives that we want to achieve. One is of course the capacity building, then industrialization, green transition of energy, lowering the price of energy costs, especially for industrial sector, and then working on certain industry. Textile could be one, as you
Yes,
just mentioned,
definitely.
and then of course mines and some of the areas where we already have natural endowment, and we need to explore that and then focus on them with a, I mean, if HEC cannot produce the right kind of human resource which is at higher pedestal, then of course the NAFTAC and TEFTAs will have problem. I would also suggest that government should look at a possibility where each university, especially public sector university, should also have a vocational center within that, and they should create a synergy between high-end graduates and of course these vocational graduates, which can actually tie up and then work on research. We can work with Chinese. You have a Chinese scholar present here who is speaking about how their leadership is working on China-Pakistan economic corridor. We should work on now new areas and new niche in China-Pakistan economic corridor, and where do we want to focus on. We can't just keep talking about in a broad framework. We need to narrow down our requirements and focus on them.
Definitely, you are absolutely very right. Dr. Chinese investments, technology transfer, relocation of the industry and setting up the special economic zones require the human capital, as you were rightly pointing out, the trained and skilled resource, rural connectivity when we are talking about agriculture, then basic infrastructure, a proper business environment, because that will greatly help to create, not only create jobs, but also boost the quality and value added production so that we can enhance our exports.
I think one other area that you are actually focusing on is also the blue economy. I think China has done wonderfully well by developing its coastline, developing new ports, and I think Pakistan can also learn from that experience by developing our ports are Chowk, Karachi, Port Qasim. Gwadar is developing, but I think the speed of that development
the process is very slow.
Is slow, and I think is not as focused as we would like between whether we want to develop the city first or the port first. And this debate, I think, by now should end, and we should focus on what we want.
We should have to move forward.
And the areas that you have mentioned, I think we have been speaking about in your program. You have been speaking about economic uplift of Pakistan. You see, if we do not work on these challenges, including the human resource capacity, including development the right kind of infrastructure and authorities and regulatories which can work in improving and perhaps deregulate our country as much as we can, the regulations that we have, the kind of discussion that we have, I think it again has to focus on the areas that we want to develop. We can talk to the Chinese, ask them what kind of marketing strategy we require to actually sell our special economic zones in China. Chinese want to invest. In the plenary, they have spoken about high quality development. They have spoken about FDI moving out of China, and of course attracting investment in China. China of the 80s is a classical case study for Pakistan to learn, for Pakistan of 2024. The challenges that we have, the opportunities that we have are, I think, similar. We should learn from China. We should, and when we say learn from China, truly learn from China. And then of course ask them to support in areas where they can support us genuinely. And then of course the financial sector, because our economy is in lot of pain. We know the pain points also. I think China can support us, but when we ask for China, I think we have to build the consensus for it. For example, in case of IPPs, there is a huge debate happening in our country against the IPPs.
Definitely.
So when we talk of actually streamlining the processes, improving our energy sector, we should work on the IPPs which are owned by Pakistanis, work on them, discuss with them, negotiate with them, and when that negotiation is done well, perhaps then we can move to foreign investor and then focus on them and looking for support
Very
from
valid
China.
point, very valid point and very important. SHEN, as the Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif proposed 1+4 model where in each Pakistan's special economic zone plus one Chinese province, one industrial group, one Chinese special economic zone and one state-owned enterprise, SOE, to spearhead the development. To what extent the model has got acceptance in China, and any progress on that, because as these SEZs are the lifeline for Pakistan's economic growth if set up accordingly what it was actually envisaged?
Yes, first of all, it's a good proposal and it is working. And you see the Kashgar, which is in the western part of China, is quite close to the Cpec starting point in Xinjiang. So actually, this is the Kashgar has cooperated with Shenzhen. And when we're talking about the model you mentioned, we know the Pakistani Prime Minister Sharif held Shenzhen speed during his visit to China this June, and he was visibly impressed by Shenzhen's transformation from a small village to a global economic powerhouse in just a few short decades, and he hopes Pakistan could learn from this kind of model. And from my perspective, Pakistani government officials could come to China to learn more about how this model works and the lessons we have, and also combine this knowledge with the local conditions, for example, in Karachi or in Gwadar, and to streamline the progress of doing business in Pakistan. And that model will work.
So how do you see the progress on 5 new sub-corridors like growth, job creation, innovation, green energy and inclusive regional development in the second phase of Cpec, as working group is already set up, and how Pakistan's 5Es framework including export, energy, equity, e-Pakistan and environment will supplement this Cpec driven 5 sub-corridors?
Yes, and you see China and Pakistan have agreed on these 5 new corridors. And actually in phase 1, Cpec has laid out a solid foundation for the industrialization and modernization of many sectors, including agriculture and textile, as our guests have mentioned. The Cpec 2.0 represents a strategic shift from towards a comprehensive and inclusive economic growth and more like an innovation-driven economy. And this phrase aims to address the shortcomings of the initial phrase by focusing actors beyond infrastructure, like we see the science and technology. So that's why you can see the key areas of emphasis will include a more innovation-driven economy and to upgrade Pakistan's the railway system and also about the vocational schools. So all these initiatives are expected to stimulate regional development, enhance economic growth, especially by improve the regional connectivity and poverty alleviation. So by broadening this scope, Cpec 2.0 aims to create a more diversified and resilient economic base.
Elaborated, Shan, well elaborated. Asad, what you know that Pakistan is facing a problem of instability. Because of that, lots of projects are actually affected, especially the Cpec project. So, Pakistan facing the problem because of, unfortunately, because of the interim Afghan government. And the question is that what hinders Afghanistan not to cooperate with Pakistan? Why Cpec extension, the trans-Afghan projects like Trans-Afghan Railway, like CASA 1000, TAPI and others are lingering? Why Afghans don't give shut-up call to the inimical forces, particularly India, on its state-sponsored terrorism, dismantle the terrorist sanctuaries and focus on development? And they are covertly hand in gloves with some of the eastern powers, with the western agenda of containment of China and against Pakistan.
Let me explain that for the problem of Afghanistan is that they have now recently started engaging with the international community. So to get engagement or to get familiar with the international norms, it will take some time. We have to give them some time for this kind of engagement. They are now more opening up to the world. I believe yesterday they have celebrated their three years of the Taliban government. The indicators issued by the UN are also positive about this current Afghan government in their various documents, if you go through them.
However, indicators related to might be the poppy cultivation or regarding peace or something like that.
Yeah,
yes. But on the other hand, the indicators tell us that there are more than 10,000 of the terrorist fighters who are having 6,000 of the Daesh or ISIL-KP, and you have more than 6,000 of the Fitna al-Kharij or the Kharijis. So why those indicators are telling us that the terrorists are growing in Afghanistan and Afghanistan turning into a terrorist sanctuary?
Yes, this is what I was coming towards. Afghanistan has been a battleground for many decades by the major powers. And the regional miscreants, you can say, or the regional countries like India, they are also getting benefit out of their from this whole mess that was created in Afghanistan. So that has not been over yet. It is now in the current Afghan government hand that how they will deal with this whole situation and how will they deal with the external involvement in Afghanistan and how will they cater that those external hands in Afghanistan. I believe they are working on it. We should give them some time, more time to handle with their internal affairs. The issue of TTP and various other elements, the miscreants, the militants present in Afghanistan, without handling that, Afghanistan will not prosper. They will not be able to engage the international community.
Definitely, this is what Pakistan is actually asking them, that please cooperate with Pakistan and eradicate all those sanctuaries which are present there. They have taken refuge there at your soil. This is what Pakistan is stressing upon, but unfortunately the Afghan interim government is not ready to cooperate. This is unfortunate, really. Dr. Hassan Sahab, what are the expected outcomes of the Gawada master plan in Cpec phase 2? The Gawada port extension and modernizations, the airport is already completed, and other infrastructure projects, as it's going to be very vital route when it comes to the Western China particularly. Its development, but also Afghanistan and Central Asian republics.
I think more than Western China, our western part of Pakistan is equally benefiting from that. I think the poverty numbers on our western part of Pakistan are not so encouraging.
Yes,
and by having rural-urban synergy, which you mentioned, by creating roads and relevant infrastructure, economic activity within that region can actually address some of the poverty-related issue and some of the security-related issue. And for that to happen, I think the central point will be development of Gwadar and Gwadar port. Gwadar, we have seen East Bay Expressway coming and all the issues around that of the fishermen were addressed amicably. We have seen that the airport is now ready. I think for the traffic to happen in airport, the tourism aspect, the economic aspect has to work fast. Now when Gwadar develops, I think whole of Balochistan on the western side and also on the eastern side along the coast develop, we should create more opportunities along the coastline. We have so many coastal towns which are not as developed as they should have been. The development has to be just, has to be inclusive. And then when Gwadar grows and the economic activity goes up to Quetta, because this road is now worthy to carry the cargo, one transit trade and the other cargo.
And shortly, if you just give us, because we have run short of time, so Gulf Cooperation Council countries, investments in Gwadar, but then there is a silence. What's the progress on that?
I think Pakistan needs to actually do correct marketing of not just the Gwadar but the entire coastline, because for Gwadar the port is under development. We are not sure by 2040 how much development will take place. There is a lot of money going into the development of the Gwadar city itself. I think on the petrochemical side there is a huge scope of third party participation. As you said, Saudis and other Middle Eastern countries, our partners can come and invest in this sector. We have very good coastline, not just there and also in the tourism sector also. And this can create an stimulus as far as Balochistan economy is concerned by about 2% to 3% growth, just by developing the blue economy, the fisheries, the export of fishes in China. The export has risen by about 30% to China. The overall sesame seed is now going to China, and some other aqua marine projects that are going to China is actually benefiting the local economy.
Definitely.
But again the point, do we have the right kind of human resource available to modernize the
again it's a pivot. Again
so I think that would
very
be
important.
critical.
Definitely, you are absolutely right. Asad, very short, very brief. What's the impact of the Indo-US nexus and the particularly the West initiated containment of China policy and the China-US geopolitical competition in South Asia, particularly affecting the Pakistan's growth trajectory? How do you see it?
There's no doubt that it is essential for Pakistan to balance its relation with both US and China. Now, as we see, the world is already in flux. We see the conflicts are rising, wars are rising. In this scenario, what China is presenting to us or the world at large, they are talking about global security initiative, they are talking about global cultural initiative, they are talking about global development initiative, they are talking about inclusive development, they are talking about modernization, harmony, poverty alleviation, etc., etc.
Definitely.
So in this context, world must listen to these Chinese initiatives. They should, both the blocs, the US and the China, they should avoid going into the competition. And by the way, this is reflected in some of the US documents released in February this year, in which I believe, what I personally understood from those documents were that in future they will avoid going into any direct conflict.
Definitely, you are absolutely
somehow
right.
the competition will
right.
be there, but they will go.
It's a very sweet discussion, really. I want to continue it, but unfortunately we run short of time. So thank you very much.
Faisal, so can I just mention?
Yeah, definitely.
Why
not?
I think the West needs to understand, and even our leadership needs to understand, by becoming friends of China, that necessarily does not mean that you become the enemy of the West.
Yeah, obviously, and Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif has already categorically cleared it, that this friendship is not at the cost of any other. So this is very simple, but they have to understand it. Thank you very much, Dr. Hassan, for your presence here in the studios. Thank you very much, Asad, for your valuable presence, and thank you very much. So nice of you. And I am really grateful to you, SHEN, for your presence online and very candid and elaborative views. Thank you very much for your whatever you have pointed out. It was very great, really. Thank you very much for that. Viewers, as our panelists suggested, that the government has to prefer the small clusters of the special economic zones, the export processing zones, etc. We have to prefer this and build it up brick by brick. electronic vehicles and all others, that is going to be a real boost in Pakistan's industrial production as well as to exports, because if the economy boosts, definitely the cost of production and all others, along with that the common man gets the jobs, and their living is going to be very cheap here. It will also provide the cheap vehicles to the common man in Pakistan as well, because the prices are very high right now. It provides also the environment friendly atmosphere when we have the electronic vehicles. Along with that, the Sinopac cooperation must have to be strengthened in agriculture and textile sector, and for that it is important that we should develop our human resource, human capital, particularly the skill development here. The textile and fashion design overall, whether it's apparels, whether it's garments, whether it's bed linens and all that, 23% of the exports, $5.8 billion of the exports enhanced to China. This must have to be enhanced because Pakistan needs more exports. Trade and technology go together. We have to focus on that. Blue economy is one of the very lucrative sector. In that we have to focus, and we have to seek cooperation from China as well. We have to develop our investment priorities, particularly in Gwadar, related to the Cpec projects, and also to seek investment from the Gulf Cooperation Council countries. Terrorism is a real threat to Pakistan's economy, and we should have to fight like a nation. We have to strengthen this Azm-e-Istehkam strategy, and we have to engage Afghanistan as well on that account, because if we want to have peace in the region, and Afghanistan must have to be cooperate to Pakistan as well. When we are talking about balancing relations between China and United States, Pakistan is rightly in middle, and Pakistan is not in difficult position. Pakistan is sitting at a very important position, strategic position. Pakistan has to utilize both of its fronts and balance it, because ultimately only the peace will prevail, and the peace will give you the guarantee to progress. This is today's Foresight. It's time to sign off. Allah Hafiz.